Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. You are listening to The Robby Row Show, episode 88 with Chad Longworth. Let's hear a little soundbite from Chad.
Plugging away and training different guys with different deficiencies, and every player's different. And so you start to design drills and drill models and drill sequences and all these other things that go into this. And, you know, it just continues down the rabbit hole of like, every time you think you've gotten in a good path, somebody new walks in.
May I have your attention, please?
Give me a heater.
Right now, listening to Clear the Mechanism.
The Robby Row Show.
The Robby Row Show.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy Robby Row, the host of The Robby Row Show, welcoming you to episode 88 with Chad Longworth. If you have yet to do so, go ahead and hit that subscribe button on this podcast to not miss out on any future instructional, educational, informational, baseball training content. Wow. So in today's episode, like I said, I have the pleasure of sitting down and talking to Chad Longworth, who is at C Long Baseball on Twitter and Instagram, if you want to go check them out for yourselves. So Chad and I have a really good conversation today, ranging from hitting instruction, data analytics, old school, new school approaches within the hitting industry, certain drills and the progression that he uses, overcomplication of a simple game in baseball, but identifying that hitting is absolutely tough. We talk a little bit about social media feuds and Twitter backlash and how that's kind of taken a negative turn for youth athletes not wanting to go on Twitter or even instructors not wanting to post on Twitter. And then we kind of rounded up with the importance behind understanding the data and interpreting the data and understanding what data metrics say what and all of that stuff. So it's a really good episode. I love having guys from the hitting side to come on to not only see the correlations from hitting and pitching as far as from like a power output standpoint, but also kind of the subtle differences that you'll see and sense as we kind of get talking here in today's episode. Like I said, my name is Robby Rowland. I'm the host of The Robby Row Show. You can find me on Instagram at Robby Row 12. That's Robby with a Y. You can also check out my website, therobbyrowshow.com. And speaking of my website, you can find the show notes over at therobbyrowshow.com/088. I will include all of Chad Longworth's links, including his website, in which I highly encourage you to check out because he writes some fantastic blogs. And if you're a hitting guy and you want to know more about hitting and all of that good, so head on over there. But like I said, you can find that in the show notes at therobbyrowshow.com/088. All right, guys, that will do it for my introduction. And I hope you guys enjoy today's episode with Chad Longworth. All right, guys, enjoy. All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We have episode 88 today with Chad Longworth. Chad, welcome to the Robby Row Show, man. How you doing today?
Good, man. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, I'm really good, man. I got a Dunkin' iced coffee right next to me, so I don't know if I can complain all too much.
There you go. Not much of an iced coffee guy myself. Just black. Just black, hot black coffee.
Man, I envy people like you, man. I really do. I don't know how you do it. That's impressive.
Yeah, so I can give you the story. I didn't drink coffee until I had kids. And then went into a coffee shop one day, and I'm just beat. My daughter's not slept in like a week, and I haven't either. And the guy in the shop was like, you ever drink this kind of coffee? I was like, no, dude, I've never drank coffee in my life. He said, well, if you're going to start, you got to start black and just stick with it. And I'm like, all right, man, whatever you say. And I hated it. And then I just stuck with it, and that's the only way I drink it now.
Well, that is honestly though the way to start, right? Because I think I went wrong because like as soon as I started drinking coffee, I started like doing the milk in it. You know, I'd even put like some butter in it, and it was just a totally different tasting coffee than you know just black. And then you taste black, and it's like holy smokes, that's too bitter.
It's a different thing.
So, dude, I'm on your website right now, and I hate to do this because I saw your About Me page, but I got to ask you about your playing career, if you don't mind taking me and my listeners into that a little bit.
It wasn't that. I mean, it didn't go that well. I mean, it went all right. It was okay. It didn't go as well as I thought it should have, and so. Was drafted in the 12th round by the Indians, played 3 seasons. I was in their system for 4 years, played 3 seasons. Hit well. I mean, like my second year, I hit right at 300. I hit no homers. And I'm 6'4" and like 220. I didn't hit any homers. And it just didn't go. It didn't go as well as I thought it should. And so, just kind of, when it was over, I wasn't really done looking for answers.
Yeah.
And so I just continued to look for answers because I wasn't satisfied. Mostly because I wasn't satisfied with the way it went. Or, it was nobody's fault. It just didn't go as well as I thought it should have.
Yeah, dude, it's so funny too because I was like sitting there reading that, and it's like, I relate to that a lot. Being a pretty decently high draft pick and having these like expectations, and then going into it. And was there any sense in your career where you were kind of like, okay, this isn't going as good as I want, and now I start like pressing a little bit and maybe start trying a little bit harder than you should have?
Yeah. I mean, I think that pressure is always there in the minor leagues for a few reasons. Like minor league baseball, the lifestyle is everybody points out, is not that good. And so, the pressure to move up and get closer to the big leagues, and I think everybody kind of has that dream of playing in the big leagues, and then it starts to go south on you, and you definitely start to press, and you definitely start to do things internally that it's like digging a hole and you can't get out at a certain point. And it is what it is now. I say this a lot on Twitter, but I'm so jealous of the guys now because they have access to so many things that they don't have to guess at things that I guessed at.
Right.
We were just guessing at things and hoping that it worked, and we were relying on anecdotes and opinions and this, that, and the other. And it's just like, man, none of that worked for me. Like none of the answers I got were the answers that I needed at the time. And so, here we are in 2019, and sometimes we still argue about that, but that would have been huge in my own career.
Yeah, tell my listeners kind of like some of the examples of things, especially from like the hitting side, because I'm more of the pitching side where I talk about stuff like that. Talk about some examples of things that you guessed on as a hitter back then.
Just something as simple as like a blast sensor or a diamond kinetic sensor, or something that can just show you that you are swinging down through impact, and you shouldn't be. The accepted thing in hitting, and probably partially still accepted, is you got to swing down and create backspin, and that was a large theme of what I was told to do, and you just accept that because it's coming from people that were successful players and have been in the system, so you just try to do that. And I wasn't one of these people or one of these players that was fortunate enough to be able to try to say one thing and do another thing. A lot of guys that say they swing down, they don't actually swing down, but I did. And so just something as simple as like a sensor now that would have said, yeah, man, like your impact is, especially deep in the zone, is -5, and you're going to ground out a lot, which I did because I was just trying to backspin balls because I thought that was the way to do it. And so, just that. But then, furthering on with TrackMan and Hit Tracks, Flight Scope, and, you can have all these assessment reports on batted balls and, directional exit velocities, directional launch angles to kind of tell you where your deficiencies are in your swing. And then you can take that feedback, and then you can design training or drills or anything to help you give you a better shot to address these things, because hitting is such, pitching is much more of a consistent skill, where
Right.
hitting is so random. It's such a random thing that there's so many things that go into it. There's a lot of things we can't explain. There's some of the things we can, and the things we can't explain, and the things that we can measure, and the things that we can collect data on. You just need to try to address them as well as you can in a training environment. And then, I was telling somebody this the other day. I was always somebody that liked live at bats when I played. So any opportunity that I could get high velocity live at bats, I took that opportunity. But now today we have machines that you can dial in spin rates, and you can make even machine work just so much more valuable and close to what the pitcher's actually going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
Just using something like a pitching Rapsodo, you can do that. So the technology to just refine the craft of hitting is just so much. It's so unbelievable now.
Yeah, dude, no doubt. It's crazy too, because it's from the pitching and the hitting side. It's just baseball in general. That kind of segues into my next point. Honestly, is coming from like you being on the instruction side of it, dude. Is like I see all the time kids like wanting so badly to understand and interpret their data, whatever their data is, and sometimes that could be like a total disservice to what the overall goal of baseball development is. Sometimes you see these kids who get this data and don't really know what it means or what it entails, and then they can kind of go down that rabbit hole and then lose sight on, who they are as a player. How do you kind of, as an instructor, how do you balance the scale as far as like interpreting the data on you and then kind of presenting that to the player?
So normally, to be honest with you, I usually don't give them data, or I don't even really discuss it with them unless they ask.
Yeah.
I look at it, and I'd spend time looking at it, and I'd spend time sifting through it, and trying to export and put it in a report format, just so that we can know, just so we can design our drill progressions and weighted bat work, and so that we can address things that they need to do better. And as an example, like yesterday, I was having a discussion with a dad about his son's having trouble hitting off-speed pitches, and I told him, I said, I wish there was a linear answer to this question, but there's not. But some of the things that we have to address in training, timing variabilities, barrel direction variabilities, those kind of things. And it just so happened yesterday in the drill progression, we were doing some like no stride barrel direction work, and so we were in the drill, and I was trying to explain to him within the drills what they were doing. And I told him, I said, they don't really know this. All they're trying to do is like get into a good position and like execute hitting the ball hard in the air. But within the drill and the position they're in, we are addressing directional adaptability and things of that nature. So yes, the data is only as good as like the work that's tied to it to improve the input and the output, really.
Yeah. I love on your website, it says that you're naturally curious, and like that couldn't
unbelievably
that couldn't, honestly, I couldn't relate more to that, dude. It kind of goes hand in hand with me being like a perfectionist too, whereas like if there's anything new out there, like I need to know how to interpret it. I need to know what it means. I need to be able to give a PowerPoint presentation on it, especially when it comes to frickin' baseball, dude. So take me through that process for you, starting to kind of dive into all of the data analytics and all that. Like what was that process like for you, and what were the first things that you kind of looked at and go, oh, this actually makes a lot of sense and I can apply it to my teaching?
I did all right in school. In school I did, because I was drafted out of high school. So in high school I just kind of did well enough to like be able to play sports. I mean, I knew I was going to be able to go to college based upon baseball only. And so as long as I did well enough in school, like it didn't really matter to me that much. And so but I've always been kind of a curious problem solver. And so those two things together, like not being crazy intelligent and just being curious, I don't have like a great fear of being wrong about things. So I just try stuff. It's like, oh, well, guess what? Chad was wrong again. But in being wrong a lot, you get a lot closer to being right. And so kind of the first thing that happened, I think that was part of your question. Kind of the first thing that happened was I picked up a bat sensor in a facility one day. It's like, I don't know what any of this stuff is, but I kind of like technology and I like baseball and I like hitting. So like, let's see what this does. And the first thing that I started to notice in what I was doing at the time was, man, we're really not able to like consistently duplicate like attack angle at all. And I know that's kind of important, but I really don't know like what's going to address that in a training or because at the time I was doing a lot of one-on-one lessons and I don't do that anymore. But I don't know what's going to address that. But so I started to like honestly mill around on Twitter and DM guys, and I was reading stuff and I would DM guys and be like, dude, I don't like, this is not something I've ever heard anyone say, because it came from a professional baseball background. It's like, I've never heard anybody say this. Like, what are you talking about? And so I just kind of picked the ears of people and, I started to kind of get a better grasp on being able to consistently arrive at a positive attack angle. And so we addressed that. Furthering into that story, then I bought a Hit Trax. After I bought a Hit Trax, I was then seeing like we're really not helping many guys hit the ball much harder over the scope of time. And then at the same time that came up, we'd been using driveline programming for, we start like everybody else. I kind of downloaded the free guide after I'd kind of seen it before, and I was like, well, this is totally foreign to me too, but I'm going to give it a shot because it looks cool. And so we started doing that, and within that, I thought, well, man, weighted bats have to work kind of the same way. Let's try this. And so we go down that rabbit hole, and it's like, yeah, okay, so now we're starting to improve guys' exit velocities over time, and you just continue down the rabbit hole of different, you keep plugging away and training different guys with different deficiencies, and every player's different, and so you start to design drills and drill models and drill sequences and all these other things that go into this, and it just continues down the rabbit hole of like, every time you think you've gotten in a good path, somebody new walks in, and it's like, yeah, the drill progressions have changed in the last, 3-4 months, it's constantly, especially with hitters, like there's so much variability that's involved that you have to adapt in so many ways.
Yeah, I mean, it's the typical phrase of like adapt or die, right? Like that applies even within all of the technology that we're seeing within the game. You see kind of, or at least you hear a lot on the rants on Twitter about how, you kind of have like this segmentation of the old school versus the new school, and how the old school guys are mad at the new school guys because they didn't need data and they don't think we need data and all this other stuff. But that could be a whole nother podcast.
For sure. I mean, and I tell players this a lot. I'm not talking about like 80s and 90s guys. I'm talking about like Babe Ruth, Bob Gibson, like these guys. Babe Ruth probably spent his entire youth up until his pro career just trying to hit the ball as hard and far as he could. And there wasn't really much else, many more noise than that. Swinging a 40-ounce bat.
Just crushing hot dogs while he's doing it.
Yeah, let's go more to that and think less about this, that, or the other thing that we've gotten to this place where, I I think the internet's awesome. And I think Twitter's awesome. And I think all these things that we have are really, really awesome. But it's also putting information sometimes in the hands of people that really don't know how to interpret it. And so we just get like this overemphasis of things that it's like, it's really not that important. Right? You know,
you can overcomplicate a simple game, honestly.
For sure. You know, I've got computers and I've got sensors and we've got all this stuff to basically do what people did, like what Mickey Mantle did. And it's like, you know, you're just trying to kind of like be on time and get into a good spot and just hit the ball as hard as you can in the air. Like there's a lot of like adaptations within that, and we try to design that, but really in the central part of this, that's what we're trying to do. And so certainly, you know, certainly on Twitter and certainly on YouTube and all these other things that are really, really awesome. Just go down rabbit holes on things and arguments on things like, man, I know we're arguing about anecdotes and of an individual player, but there's no two players that are alike. There's no two fields that are alike. There's no two, you know, there's nothing that's the same, although they're making the relative same sequencing move. They're all getting to it and feeling to it in different ways. And we just got to allow players to like feel that out for themselves, or give them opportunities to feel that out for themselves in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah, same from the pitching side too. You just got to like put them in environments in which they can be completely mindful and intentional about, you know, feeling that, because I think the disconnect within the industry is you try to kind of like manipulate that in a way where the instructor is using certain verbiage, but the player doesn't know and like isn't aware of like what the actual goal is like of a specific drill. How do you go about, like, I know you mentioned a couple times drill progression and all of that. If you can kind of take us into a good example of how you go about designing your drills for your guys, especially from like the hitting side.
You know, we do it in a lot of the same ways that you know, drive line methodology and constraint-led approach and, you know, things like that. We do it in a lot of the same ways they do it. And you know, we kind of try to just give the player minimal information within the context of like what they're trying to do, and then allow them to figure out the rest. You know, for example, you know, one of the big things and one of the common characteristics you see in pretty much all good hitters is at some point during their kind of loading or setup, they get into like a hitting posture. So posturing inside of a drill is something that we talk about a lot. Like, make sure you're getting into posture. I mean, certainly inside of the drill and hitting, we never take more than like 3, 4, 5 swings at any given height of a tee. You know, I'm not a big tee work guy in a traditional sense, but we use tees to like pattern sequencing and movements and, you know, positioning and rotation and all these things. But we're trying to add some variability in that, so we're just not like over and over and over again kind of taking that blocked practice same swing, because hitting doesn't happen like that.
Right.
You know, the tee's valuable to like pattern specific things such as posture or removing slack or rotating or any of these things. But, you know, a lot of people misuse it. And there's a lot of misinformation about the tee. I'm just using the tee as one example. You know, a lot of people use it as just like, we're going to take this one swing in this one spot over and over again and get good at hitting. And it's like, no, it's probably not going to happen. You can use the tee to like figure out some positioning and figure out just some basic sequencing things and, you know, movement patterning. But after that, you know, we got to go get the ball moving as quickly as possible. So that's kind of how we do it. We've got the framework pieces, the posture. You know, at some point in time, depending upon what kind of mover you are, you've got to create stretch. I use my quote fingers. That's Donaldson talks about stretch or taking the slack out, or, you know, somebody will hear this on Twitter and yell at me that I'm using the wrong word. Doesn't matter what the word is.
Big old World War III.
But you got to create, potential energy so that when it's time
from
to
the
go,
pitching side, right?
Yeah, when it's time to go, you put whatever word to it you want. You're in a good spot to rotate, sequence correctly, and deliver force into the ball wherever that is at any given time.
Yeah. I like elasticity just because it sounds cool.
Sure, yeah. We spend a lot of time on Twitter arguing about words. Right. Who cares, man?
Yeah, I know. It's terminology, dude, and that's what's man. I don't want to go too much into it, dude, but like someone mentioned that the other day on Twitter is like it's such a good platform for kids, right? To go on there and like see, like even you mentioned you were going on there and DMing people. If you didn't know something, like you could network and talk to someone, like how kind of how we're doing in this podcast.
Yeah.
And now it's like you don't want to say anything instructional on Twitter because of the fear of getting blasted, right? Or even as a kid, like utilizing like the Flat Ground app to put something on there, like a highlight, and maybe the timidness of, okay, I don't want to get blasted, so I'm not going to put it up there.
For sure. That's a real thing. I mean,
it is.
Occasionally I'll get tagged in like a swing critique. Somebody's asking for swing critiques. And it's like, man, I don't really do that. But I'll shoot them a DM and be like, look, I don't publicly critique swings. Like, I'm not going to do that on Twitter. Like, if you want just some feedback on a couple of things that maybe I think you can do better, here it is. But I'm not going to because I don't want, I don't want to be somebody that just critiques young players' swings.
Why would you? I don't understand
on
that.
social media. Like, that's such a bad look for people. Like, if you got something to say to them, just hit that DM button and send them a message.
Right. Well, that's personal. That's where you get the most out of the actual interaction, rather than it being like 17 different usernames going back and forth.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to dive into one more thing, man. You talked earlier about attack angles using kind of like a metric from Blast, and identifying the importance behind it. Are there any other, if there's any like instructors that own a facility that are on the hitting side listening on this podcast, like what are kind of your most important metrics that you look at from the technology that you utilize?
So, I mean, it's certainly a budget thing. Not everybody is as dumb as I am to just jump in and buy hit tracks like on a whim.
That's smart.
But if you've got a sensor, I started with Diamond Kinetics. I still use the Diamond Kinetics. They were kind of the first people to put the acceleration number in the sensor.
Mm-hmm.
When I was using bat sensors a lot, Blast didn't have that number, and so rotational acceleration, the acceleration of the barrel, is really, really important. Overall bat speed's really, really important. I think that's a metric that you can kind of, although there's an argument on Twitter about bat speed, it's a good key metric to gauge whether or not you're producing enough exit velocity to play. Because exit velocity is a really important thing. Being able to produce exit velocity, being able to produce peak, but also being able to produce a good average and a good standard deviation of exit velocity. Mm-hmm. That just shows that you make hard contact a lot. If you're peaking your average or too far apart, you're not hitting the barrel enough. Mm-hmm. And so again, barrel awareness and adaptability. Work within a moving ball, overhand, underhand flips, overhand short BP or overhand BP, or just things that will help players adapt the barrel to where the ball is. I say that a lot. You got to get good at swinging where the ball is, no matter where it's at, no matter what pitch it is, no matter what count it is, no matter what it is, because you've got your A swing, but there are many adaptations off your A swing that you got to use to play.
Yeah.
And hitting the ball in the barrel is really important. So exit velocity is something we look at a lot. Average exit velocity is something we look at a lot. But if you don't have things to measure that, you can look at bat speed and just kind of use your eyeballs of whether the kid's barreling the ball up or not. His bat speed's improving, 3, 4, 5% within these time frames, and then anecdotally, visually, it looks like he's barreling balls up more, then you've got something. So that's what I would do, depending upon what the resources that I had, just to kind of give you the Cliff Notes version of that.
No, it's funny too, because like even from like the pitching side, we're trying to do for me personally, like that's my biggest indicator as well, is like hitters exit velocity. So like as pitchers, what is our goal, right? Like our goal is to get you guys out, but we know that there's kind of a ton of variabilities within that. So focus on not ERA, like maybe whip, but like the biggest metric for me is looking at hitters exit velocity, because that gives you a complete indication of, are you missing barrels? Like I've been a professional barrel hitter for good parts of my career, man. It sucks.
Yep. You're trying pitchers are trying to design pitches with Rapsodo that move in all directions, and they're just trying to miss your barrel, and you should spend time trying to hit the ball on the barrel. And it's such a hard thing, man. It's hitting is so, like, it's hard to tell people how hard hitting is. Like, it is so hard, and it's getting harder. I put on Instagram the Drake guy that threw the left-handed slider for the Rays.
I did a post on that,
as a right-handed pitcher. It's like, if guys are going to throw this stuff to hitters, man, like, I quit. Like, we're not going to be able to hit this stuff. Like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because like pitchers, like we, especially me, dude, I'm the worst. Like, we overcomplicate the crap out of it, and it's like at the end of the day, dude, look at that. Hitting looks so hard. You got to hit a freaking white ball.
Yeah, it's so hard. I try to. We have our fair share of pitchers that train, and I have an interesting perspective of, like, you're kind of overthinking this, man. Like, hitting's really difficult. If you can just miss the barrel, if you can design pitches that kind of look the same for a long time and then go different directions, you're going to miss a lot of barrels.
Yeah, no, that's so good, man. But I want to be respectful of your time and your day, dude. But if you can, let my audience know where they can find you and what you got going on as far as social media, website. Let them have it.
Yeah, my Instagram and Twitter, both C Long Baseball. I'm active on Twitter almost every day. A lot of it's sarcastic. There's a lot of funny GIFs. There's informational insight sometimes. I just try to not take myself too seriously a lot. I just want to try to give people information, take it or leave it. I'm not there to argue. I'm not there to try to be the smartest person there, or be the I think there's a lot of people that try to be the smartest guru. Like, I'm not trying to do that.
Guru, yeah.
I'm not trying to do any of that. I just kind of want to be sarcastic and funny and, like, not take myself too seriously. My website's Chad Longworth Online. Some blogs there. I did LPD Plus, which is Longworth Player Development Plus. It has all the premium, like, training content there. Invented the spinner, which is the shoulder stability tube. We were just trying to make the shoulder tube more portable, so we came up with that. That's been really good. And so just curiously trying to, like, dig my way through every day and try to leave it better than I found it.
That's the name of the game, man. Well, hey, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to hopping on the show, man. Keep doing what you're doing, man. You're a blessing to the industry, so I appreciate everything you do, and I'll sign you off the air, but thanks again for hopping on.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, guys, that'll do it for today's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. Like I said before, if you have yet to subscribe to the Robby Row Show, please do so. And if you enjoyed this episode, go ahead and leave me a written review saying how much you enjoyed it. Or if you didn't enjoy it, I guess you can leave me a written review saying how much you didn't enjoy it. But either way is fine. Like I said, the show notes over at therobbyrowshow.com/088. You can check out all of Chad's links, as well as any baseball company products that I've partnered with to provide you guys with discounts on some of the industry's best and most valuable products. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in today, and hope you have a good rest of your day. And until next time, God bless, guys. See ya.